Good morning and hello. I'm Sandy Adams, your guest host for the Community Spotlight series produced by the Mckenzian banner. Today's presenting sponsor is Tri-County Publishing, located in McKenzie, Tennessee. Tri-County Publishing is the place to get all of your customizable business products, and yes, even those for your personal use. Today, I'm excited to chat with David Johnson. David, a best-selling author, has developed a reputation as a writer of books with heart, as they feature strong, unforgettable characters from humble backgrounds who love to grapple with the unexpected turns of everyday life. He is the author of the riveting Tucker series, one of the best-selling series on Amazon. The series has collected over 5,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, and sales of the books will soon approach 500,000 copies. David, in his spare time, is also a licensed counselor and the director of the David Johnson Chorus, which is now celebrating its 23rd and final year. So please give a hand and welcome David Johnson to the show.
Hey, good morning, Sandy.
Good morning, David. For those out there, we were just chatting because David and I reminded him, I knew him back when I was in high school, and we did some fantastic things. I was really good friends at the time with Lenita Meadows, still am. She just doesn't live close to us anymore. And so it's a small world, and good to see you again and excited to chat with you this morning.
So, I'm really glad to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Well, yes, and I got to say, your backdrop is really beautiful. I hope that is that real, or is that?
That's real. I'm sitting on my front porch.
Well,
I have 5 dogs inside the house, and if any one of them barks, they all 5 bark.
And so I love that, though. I love that.
So I said to everybody, lock the doors, don't let any dogs out. I'm going to sit on the porch to do this interview.
Well, I have a similar background, except mine's the front ground, so I'm looking out basically to what you're seeing as well now. But yes, so what kind of dogs do you have? I'm a dog lover.
Okay. All right, so we have a golden retriever, we have 2 rat terriers, we have a miniature schnauzer, and our most recent one is a beagle that we rescued.
Oh wow! What made you get your first dog and then just keep getting them?
Well, I mean, I've always been a dog person. When some of the earliest pictures, black and white pictures of me when I was just tiny, I'm sitting in the ground outside in the yard and have a lap full of my daddy's hunting dog puppies just all piled up over me. So I've always had a dog my entire life. So it started way back then, and then we got married and introduced my wife to the love of dogs, and so she loves dogs. Then we had some grandchildren to come start living with us when they were very little, and they needed some dogs, and so that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the way it goes. So where did you grow up at?
That's a difficult question to answer. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, but I only lived there for 4 years. 2 memories of Michigan are being in a snow fort with my brother and sister, and the other memory is of getting hit in the face with a snowball. For whatever reason, those are my 2 memories of Michigan. Then we moved to Alabama. Then we moved to North Carolina. Then we moved back to Alabama. Then we moved to Dresden, Tennessee, when I was a sophomore in high school. So I finished my 3 years of high school at Dresden. And so that's how the West Tennessee connection happened.
You know, I find it interesting that you were born in Detroit and music is a part of your life. And I find that kind of fascinating in some strange way. But yes. So you went to high school in Dresden and you basically stayed in the area, correct?
Right. Never left the area.
Never left the area.
We've lived, and we lived in McKenzie since we've lived in McKenzie 45 years anyway.
Wow. That's amazing. So let's start with the chorus part, the music part. How did singing or music really come into your life, and how was the David Johnson Chorus created?
Okay, so let me warn you, when I start telling the story, I just kind of get carried away, and you may have to hold up your hand and say, okay,
I'll cut you off. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. So I grew up in a very musical family. My father was an incredible bass singer. My mother had a beautiful alto voice. My grandfather had a tenor voice. Another grandfather played the fiddle and the guitar. So I grew up in that environment. And when I was about 10 years old, my parents bought an album, the big plastic thing to stick around, you put on a turntable.
I have
Bought
some
an
of
album
those.
of the Robert Shaw Chorale.
Okay.
And I can remember sitting in my living room and being spellbound by what that sounded like. And so that generated just a love for choral music in general for me. Um, so I decided when I was in high school that I wanted to be a music teacher, a choral director. That's what I wanted to do. Wanted to go to school to do that. And so I went to college in 1971, began that journey. The middle of my junior year, the principal at Dresden High School called me. I didn't know him. Called me. I went out to see him, and he said they wanted to start a music program, a choral program, and wanted to know if I'd be interested in doing that. And I said, well, I'm still going to school. I've not finished yet. He said, well, why don't you just start part time with us? Maybe a couple of hours a day. You can come and kind of get started. And so I was early married. My wife was pregnant, and the extra money sounded pretty good. So I decided to start doing that. I started the choral program there at Dresden in 1974. And then I did that for 9 years. Had a choral program there at 9 years. Then I felt really called to enter ministry, and I was a youth and family minister at the Mckenzian Church of Christ for 15 years. All right, so about 23 years ago, one of my former students called me and asked me if I'd be interested in directing a group of my former students for an alumni event of some kind. I don't remember what it was. And I thought that was pretty interesting. That was kind of around the time the movie Mr. Holland's Opus
Yes.
was popular, and I thought, man, this is a Mr. Holland's Opus kind of a moment for me. And so I agreed to do that with the intention it would just be that would be it. We do it that spring. We'd have that one concert, and so that would just be it.
Right.
But we were so enthralled with that experience, we decided we couldn't quit. Mm-hmm. And so then we opened it up to audition other people from around the area who might want to join the chorus. And so that's what we've done for the past 23 years.
So this is your final year, correct?
Yes, this is our final season. I decided last year that this would be the final season because I wanted people to leave our show excited about our show and talking about how good we were, rather than saying, boy, I remember when they used to be really good.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't get a good sense of, as your abilities begin to decline. I mean, I've seen professional ball players play probably a little bit longer than they should have, and singers sing longer than they should. So that's why I decided this is a good time. I'm close to 70 years old, so it's time to let this go. So this is our final season.
So will there be any shows in the West Tennessee area that people can go see, and how would they do that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we're singing tonight. We're in Union City at the First Methodist Church in Mckenzian. In Union City at 7 o'clock. Yes, Union City at 7 o'clock. Then next week we'll be in Humboldt at the beautiful manor that's downtown. That's a refurbished church building that they've redone. It's just a gorgeous setting, and you can go on to it's Magnolia Manor. You can go on their Facebook page and find a way to buy tickets to that.
Okay.
Then we go to Murray. Then we go to Fulton, Kentucky, and then we're back at Dresden where we've really started.
Right.
We're finished. Our final show is the last Saturday of this month in Dresden.
So is there a website that they can go to that has a list of all of your
the best place to go is our Facebook page.
Okay, and what is that?
Go the David Johnson Chorus.
I'm just going to type that into the chat box.
And if I go there, they'll pull up and they'll see the list of shows, times, places, those kind of things.
Okay, good. So is it bittersweet? What are you going to do next year when you don't have the chorus?
I know, really. It is bittersweet. This past weekend, we went to Memphis to sing. We went to Room in the Inn, which is a homeless shelter, and we sang there for those individuals. And then we went to Senatobia, Mississippi, to the Badura Center, which is just an experience all in itself. We've been going there for so many years singing. This is a community of people who are mentally challenged, and they live in these cottages. It's a large place. And we shed tears, we cried while we sang, just because it'll be the last time we'll get to see those people. But at the same time, it's very gratifying to me that we are still touching people's lives just like we have since we first started.
I believe your granddaughter is watching, Callie.
Yes, she is.
Kaylee, she says, "Hey, Granddaddy, I'm watching you from work," which I guess I just told off on her.
Careful.
So do you have a favorite? Like, is there one show out of all of them that you've done that you just really like, that's the one that just stood out the best? Or is that a hard question? It's a hard question.
That's a really hard question. A hard question. One that stands out to me is one spring we did an all a cappella show that really depicted the life of Christ, from beginning to end, and that was a very moving show. Then we did a patriotic show one year, all patriotic music, and that was certainly, very exciting to do, and people really enjoyed that. But as far as picking out one that's above the others, they're all just unique in themselves because we've seen such a wide, vast array of styles and types of music.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody goes to the Facebook page, the David Johnson Chorus, and gets to see them before they have their very last and final show. So the other part of your life is you're a counselor, you're a licensed counselor. And so how did that work into your life with the music and everything else? I think we have a slow connection. Can you hear me? So we're having a bit of, David, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're having just a little bit of an internet connection.
Yeah, it's a little glitchy, just a little bit.
But we're going to get through this. So let's talk about the counseling part of your life. How did that come about? David?
Okay. All right. So how that started was, I was a youth and family minister, as I mentioned already. And as I got to my late 30s, I began recognizing that I really wouldn't be able to keep up that pace and go spend the night in the cave, as you did with us one time, And so I began thinking about what I wanted to do with myself. And I've always, my whole life, enjoyed helping people. I believe God's given me some skills in being able to relate to people. So I went back to school, got the training that I needed, and then was licensed as a counselor. And so that's what I've been doing for 30 plus years.
So you had mentioned in our little prep discussion that you now are mostly focused on people with addictions as opposed to, I guess, family and marriage counseling.
Okay, so I missed whatever you said.
That's okay. We are going to work through this. It's no problem. I said that I believe now you're focused on people with addiction for your counseling as opposed to family and marriage. How did that come about?
Yes. Yeah. I've been working at it used to be called the Mckenzian Medical Center, now Hometown Medical Center, for the past 10 years. And prior to that, I had a brief stint as a treatment director at a drug rehab for men, a couple of years, maybe 2.5 years, something like that. And so I was really drawn to that and felt just this tremendous need for that. And so it has been truly, the past few years has been the most rewarding part of that part of my career. I've just enjoyed it so tremendously, seeing people seize the opportunity to reclaim their lives and to turn their life around and march in a different direction and to become, productive people buying a car, getting a job, keeping a job, buying a house, getting the children back from the state if they lost them. Just all kinds of awesome stories. And so I just truly love that. And I mean, I worked there, and I'm semi-retired. I work there 3 days a week. And people ask me sometimes when I'm going to finally retire. I said, I really don't think about that because I really feel called to be doing this. And so I think this is what I should be doing.
Okay, we're going to take a pause here for commercial break. And when we return, we'll talk to David about being a book author and his series that he has out and how you can write your own book. He'll hopefully give us some tips. So just a word from our sponsor. Welcome back, everybody. We are here talking with David Johnson. David, your third part of your life, which I don't even know how you have time to do 2 of them, much less 3 of them, is as a book author. And you had told me that you started writing later in life. How did your first book come about in publishing it?
Well, I've always, I've written a lot of what I would call essays and short articles for religious journals, and those kinds of things like that. And so I decided I would take me an online writing course just to improve my skills at that.
Right.
And one of the assignments in that was I was supposed to create a character that visually would be striking and that would create just kind of a real memorable impression in somebody's mind. So that exercise that was the creation of the Tucker character. This woman who dresses like a man. She wears overalls. She chews tobacco. She short cropped hair, a very large woman, and living on welfare back in the 60s and raising her grandchildren. All right. So I got to thinking about that woman, and I wondered, how in the world, what kind of life experiences did she have that caused her to be the way she was?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the genesis for the first Tucker book. And what I did was I started a blog. And so each week I would release 1 chapter. I would write 1 chapter a week for this little book. It was just going to be a small little book. I thought that would be unique.
Right.
And people reacted to that. They were just over the top excited about that story and asking questions about that person. And is she real? Is that a real person you're talking about? And then they started asking after I finished it. They said, "So what's next?" I was like, I don't have any idea. I hadn't thought about that. So I began to thinking about that, and I said, yeah, I could see there's more to it. And so then there was another book and another, and so ultimately there were 5 books in that series, and I self-published them. That's how I started. It's gone are the days of when you would take your manuscript and knock on the door of a publisher and get somebody to publish. That's just gone. You have to procure an agent. Your agent represents you, and your agent then goes to the publishing world to try to find a suitable suitor.
Right.
I tried for a year to find a agent, and nobody was interested in this story. It didn't sound like something they were interested in.
Right.
And so then I began exploring self-publishing, and I found out that anybody can publish a book.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost a thing to publish a book if that's the way you choose to go.
Right.
And so that's what I did, and those books did very well until one day I got an email from someone who is called a acquisitions editor with Amazon.com. They have a whole publishing branch.
Yes.
To who they are. And she said that she found my books and she wanted to know if I'd be interested in Amazon taking them over and republishing them under their brand.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then ironically, of course, she was way out in Seattle. As we talked, I learned that she graduated high school in Nashville And so there was a connection there. We've actually met at the Cracker Barrel at Dixon, Tennessee, which is kind of a very common place for people in this area to stop.
It is.
We've
It
eaten
is.
a couple of meals together there. So that's how it all started. Just started as a lark. I had no intention of this becoming like another career.
Right.
It wasn't my goal. I was just going to write something because I just enjoy a story. I come from a family of storytellers. My dad was a great storyteller. Sitting around the campfire, just sitting around the fireplace, listening to my aunts and uncles tell stories. I just love a good story.
I do too. And if you talk about like one of the memories of my childhood was listening to my mom and my aunt just tell stories about their growing up in McKenzie, and just I love doing that. I really did. The other thing that I love about your story is that, I hear so many people that don't want to start something because they don't believe it's possible. And what I often tell them is just do what you want to do, and something will come of it. If you put it out there, like the Kevin Costner movie about the baseball field, if you build it, they will come. If you put it out, people will respond. It may not be the people you want, it may be the people you don't expect, but there's something out there for everyone. And so I love that you just went ahead and put it out there for yourself.
I believe that 100%, just as you do. I always say to people all the time, never too late, never too old.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The self-publishing, to go back, so how many books do you have written now? How many books have you written?
Published. I've written, my 13th book comes out the end of May.
And what's the
end of this month.
What's the name?
The name of it is Hope Returns. It's the third book in a series. The series is Hope's Way, Hope Lost, and Hope Returns.
And so at the end of May? At the end of May?
May 31st. It's you can get it. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. The ebook, anyway.
Okay. Because we have a lot of people graduating either high school or college right now, or maybe there's just people out there. I know there's a lot of people that I used to teach a class at College of the Mainland in Houston, teaching senior citizens how to write their autobiography. So there's a lot of people out there that have thought about writing something. What tips would you give them about writing and also about self-publishing?
Well, the first thing I would say is that writers write. Singers sing, and writers write. And people say to me, man, I've got this great story. I've been thinking about it for years. I'd really like to write this story. And I say, well, how much have you got done? Well, I haven't really started it yet. I said, then what makes you think you're a writer? Because if you're a writer, you're going to start writing. And so that's the first thing I would say. Start writing, whatever it is. If it's short articles, if it's about your journal that you keep, you got to write in order to be a good writer. So that's the first thing I say to people. If you want to be a writer, then you need to start writing. I encourage people to find an online group of writers that will be interested in writing the same style of books that they want to write. I'm in a online book group on Facebook with many best-selling authors and others that are just getting into the business. And the support that you receive there, the feedback, the critiques that you get.
I think we lost
it is very hard work. Very hard work. You have to be committed to doing it. You have to be disciplined at doing it, or it just won't happen accidentally. You can't write just when you're inspired to write, when the mood hits you.
Okay, we're having just a little bit of technical difficulties, so hopefully David's internet will come back up. It's the way of the world. It really is. So hopefully we can get him back on. Hope Returns, his next book in a shorter series than Tucker, is due out at the end of May. And I'll take this off for a second. And so if you are interested, you can reach out to David. You can go to his Facebook page at David Johnson Book Page. That's on his Facebook. And I'll put that here as well in the chat box. Johnson. People have asked me, what if things go wrong when you're in an interview? And things happen and life happens, and it just does, and you just go on with it and make the best of it. We had a great interview with David, and I do thank him so much for being on the show today. So now I'm not going to lose it. So here we go. That's it for today's Community Spotlight. I hope that you join us next week for another Community Spotlight. Stay tuned to our Facebook page for more information about who and when that is. We thank David Johnson for being on the show today. We're sorry for the technical difficulties, but we were almost finished anyway. If you're interested in sponsoring a Community Spotlight interview, please talk with Joel Washburn at the Mckenzian Banner. The Community Spotlight series is a great way for you to support the community, put out great stories about interesting people in our community, and also have a place to showcase your business. If you are, oh, David, we got you back.
I'm here.
You're here. Okay. We had
a storm out here the other night, and it knocked down power lines. And so since then, things have been a little bit glitchy for us.
That is okay. You showed us just what can happen, and we just go on with it. So I think we were talking about your tips for young people that are wanting to self-publish a book or get to writing. And I think your last one was about they just need to start writing.
Yes. And so the other thing, if you want to start publishing books, you have to have a thick skin.
Yes.
Because people, if they don't like it, they will let you know. They'll post those kinds of reviews. And so I'm really glad one of your questions that you sent to me that we might be asking was, do I wish that I'd started writing sooner in my life? And I'm really glad that I didn't discover this until later in life, because I think it might, all the success that I had might have turned my head a little bit, and I might have started doing it for the wrong reason. But now I'm at this stage in life, and if somebody doesn't like my book, that's fine. They certainly have a right not to like my book, and they can say what they want to about it, and it doesn't bother me. And I know a lot of authors they refuse to read any of the reviews. They will not read the reviews because they're so devastating that it hurts them so bad. So you have to learn how you're going to balance that. Now, if you want to self-publish, what I suggest people do is to go to kdp.com. And that's the arm of Amazon Publishing that allows you to self-publish.
Did you say kdp.com?
That's correct. And that is it's super easy. It's got lots of tutorials, templates, all those kinds of things that you need. They can even help you create your book cover if you want them to do that for you, those kinds of things. So that's when people ask me, how did I do that? And that's what I found, and that's what I continue to use even today when I'm self-publishing.
Well, that's great. So do you have another book in the works after your Hope Returns gets published?
Before I finish a book, I'm ready to write another book.
Well, isn't that the case though? Because isn't the process kind of long? You've already written one book, and then you have to go through the process, and by that time to you, it's already done, and you're ready to start on something else.
Yes, very, very, very true. So I've started another book, and the title of it is Second Chance Love. And it's a love story. And it's about two individuals who don't know each other, but they have very similar backgrounds in the sense that they have created prisons for themselves, built by the walls of regret and guilt because of the role they played in the breaking up of their marriages that they had.
Right.
And so they decided that they're just going to live celibate the rest of their life. That's what they deserve. They don't deserve anything else because they ruined the first chance. But his father and her mother believe differently. They want them to live another life, and so they try to find a way to get them to meet each other, to get to like each other, play Cupid, if you would. But the problem is that these two parents, they have to resolve their own feelings about the passionate love affair they had 50 years ago.
Right.
Second chance love.
Okay. So when do you anticipate being done with that? Are you there? Can we hear you? Can you hear me now, David?
Oh, that won't be till next year sometime.
Okay.
That'll be next year, I
think.
think.
So for everybody,
because I'm going to spend time now that I don't have the chorus to deal with.
Right.
We practice every weekend. We have these shows. I'm going to start camping more. My wife and I love camping, and so we're going to be camping more.
Okay, well, good to know that. Well, we'll stay tuned for more information about you. David, thank you so much for being on the show today. David, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, thank you so much. That's it for the Community Spotlight. If you are interested in in sponsoring one of our Community Spotlight series, we would love for you to contact Joel Washburn at the McKenzie Banner. As I said, stay tuned next week for our next guest, and stay tuned to our Facebook page for more information on that. And as always, we really appreciate, and if you loved today's interview, please share it on your Facebook pages. We're also live streaming to YouTube and to Twitter under our accounts there. So we've 3 ways to watch, and we'd love all your support. And thank you so much for watching, either live or on the recorded version. And from all of us here at the McKenzie Banner, have a great rest of the day.